Okay, I think we'll get started. Welcome everybody to tonight's event. My name is Christine Schmidt and I'm the Deputy Director and Head of Research here at the Wiener Holocaust Library. And on behalf of the library, I'm very pleased to welcome you in the room and online to our event that considers the legacies of the Yezidi genocide today. We are honored to be joined tonight by Hewan Omer and Khalida Ilyas, Country Director and Livelihoods Manager of the Free Yezidi Foundation, one of our esteemed partners that supported this exhibition. Together with the Holocaust Research Institute at Royal Holloway University of London and the library, through our partnership known as the Holocaust and Genocide Research Partnership, we have launched this exhibition in February of this year, and we have been very heartened by the turnout and response, and so we're very happy that you could join us this evening as well. We are grateful to our other partner, the Armenian Institute, as well as the Arts and Humanities Research Council and the Ernst Hecht Charitable Foundation for their support of our activities on this exhibition. This is our last event in the exhibition series, and we do hope you have a chance to have a look at the exhibition tonight. If you haven't had a chance to do so already, it does close next Friday on May 31st, so please do have a look tonight if you can. Tonight's event, which will discuss the challenges facing Yezidi genocide survivors and internally displaced people living in camps in northern Iraq today, is a fitting way, I think, to close our run. In developing this exhibition jointly with the main curator, Dr. Rebecca Jinks, we wanted to ask visitors to consider the ways in which survivors' experiences of genocide are retold, reshaped, and reused for different purposes by humanitarian groups, journalists, scholars, and the very real world impact of this retelling. Whose stories reach prominence? Whose are forgotten? On Tuesday, we had the privilege of hearing Hewan and Khalida speak very movingly and bravely at the UK Parliament about the challenges facing the Yezidi community today. And the session very much amplified, I think, the key questions we are asking in this exhibition. So I'm very honored that Hewan and Khalida have come to the library to continue that conversation, and we are really pleased to welcome you tonight. Before I hand over to the lead curator of the exhibition, Becky Jinks, who will say a few words and introduce our speakers and start the conversation, I have to do the boring housekeeping bits. We aren't expecting a fire alarm, so in the event that it does go off, we have one entry and one exit to the building, so please just exit the entry that you came in. If you need the toilets, those are accessible via the lift in the back. So you just exit the door and then go left and take the lift down to the basement. And welcome to our online audience. You will be muted throughout the entire program, but please post any questions or comments in the chat, and hopefully at the end of the conversation, we'll be able to take some of your questions as well. And if you have questions in the audience, please just wait for a microphone so that people online can hear you. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Becky. Dr. Rebecca Jinks is a historian of comparative genocide and humanitarianism at Royal Holloway, University of London. She is the author of Representing Genocide, the Holocaust as Paradigm, which examines the ways in which representations of the Holocaust have influenced how other genocides are understood and represented, focusing on the quote-unquote canonical cases of genocide, Armenia, Cambodia, Bosnia, and Rwanda. Her current research project, Genocidal Captivity, is funded by the AHRC and explores the experiences of Armenian and Yezidi women genocide survivors in 1915 and 2014. So handing over the mic literally.
Thank you very much, Christine. I'm not going to talk for too long. I just want to say that it was an absolute privilege partnering with Free Yezidi Foundation. When I first thought about doing this grant application, obviously it was a tiny bit daunting, thinking I need to go to Iraq, how do I do that? But I reached out to Free Yezidi, and I remember very much the first meeting that I had with the director, Pari. She grilled me on ethics, and for me that was the perfect thing, because it meant that I would be partnering with an organization that shared my values. So Hewan and Khalida were extremely welcoming, so I'm really pleased to be welcoming them here tonight. I will interview you. No, I will first introduce you. That's better. I'm not going to interview you. We're just going to have a relaxed conversation, I hope, and talk a little bit about the situation of the Yezidis today. So Hewan Omer is country director of FYF. She graduated with an English degree from the University of Duhok in 2016. I'm not going to read the whole biography because it's impressive, but just to say, she's worked as a translator, an interpreter, an English language instructor, a secretary, and a women's rights advocate. In 2020, she was nominated to become a member of CARE's Global Women's Advisory Board for Advocacy, which is a forum that brings together feminist leaders and activists from around the world. And I know her to be a very strong and powerful speaker. So I'm pleased she's here tonight. And Khalida Ilyas is Livelihoods Manager at FYF. She's interestingly a biology graduate turned humanitarian, and she's been pivotal in rebuilding the livelihoods of of people in the aftermath of the genocide. So she started out as translator, then became eventually livelihoods manager, and she leads the programs empowering Yezidi and other vulnerable women with skills and income generation opportunities. So we've got some topics we're going to chat about, but I think it's worth starting out just thinking about the challenges that Yezidis face today. So when I arrived in June last year, don't tell the health and safety manager, but there'd just been a spike of hate speech in the camps. And it was very kind of raw at that particular point. So I think, Hewan, could you just speak a little bit about that maybe, and the other challenges that Yezidis face today, return to Sinjar, emigrating, so on and so forth.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Dr. Rebecca, for the research on retelling the stories of Yezidi women and survivors. And also I would like to thank the Wiener Holocaust Library for hosting us today. It's a privilege for us to be here and raising awareness on the Yezidi situations 10 years since the genocide as a representative from Yezidi civil society organization here. I think it's 10 years since the genocide that happened in August 2014. I myself bore witnesses to the horror inflicted upon my people nearly a decade ago. The invasion of Sinjar by the so-called Islamic State remains a horrific chapter in our history, marked by the brutal slaughter of thousands of men and elderly women, the abduction of countless women and children into sexual slavery or forced recruitment as a child soldiers, and the forced displacement of hundreds of thousands of Yazidis since then. The devastation imposed upon Sinjar's infrastructure was profound, with nearly 80% left in ruins. That's also beside finding more than 90 mass graves with individual or in group in Sinjar and surroundings. A decade passed now if we are talking about what's the situation looks like. So usually I say the more we get every year when we are closer to the commemoration day and we look at really what has been done, and unfortunately we see all books are still empty. Nothing has been filled and looking at the situation. So one of the things is that 10 years Yazidi, more than half of the Yazidis still live in IDP camps. That's something for us, it's really sad that the crimes that were committed and atrocities, and living 10 years under 2 meters of nylon in your own country, 2 hours far from your home, without any solutions, 10 years now. And we've seen now the announcement of the Iraqi government for closing the camps in northern Iraq by end of July this year, without any proper plan. That's a real concern for us, for Yazidis. And that brings us to looking at the situation in Sinjar. So since the genocide, we know that we have many concerns or reasons that are preventing or concerning for people to return back to Sinjar. And one of the main thing is the safety and security always. Sinjar still is, it's now, we have different militias around in Sinjar, and people, I always say, I mean, we didn't have this incident specifically maybe this year, but in the, we would see that people, somebody will be killed in front of their house and you don't know where to go, where to report this incident. And if we do also talk about the infrastructure, since the genocide, the situation in regard to the buildings and the houses, that needs to be considered in order for people to return and live in peace and dignity. Also, I think when it comes to job opportunities and basic services in Sinjar, I mean, it's very 10 years and looking at the survivors, it's very sad. We still see that people would be referred for mental health services or for to either Mosul or Tel Afar from Sinjar. For it's very concerning. We still see 10 years and all the atrocities that were committed in 2014 were publicized. It's not something that we could just close our eyes on it and that as if, okay, this is maybe a black day happened, just close that page and move on. And so the situation in Sinjar is still, I think I always say it's not about just coloring the streets for us or having a four-wall that I can live in it. It's for us as a minority, as a Yazidi in Iraq, we need to feel safe. It's about how you're feeling. If I'm every day living in fear and how I'm gonna be, how that generation of people and children will look like, living in fear without having a proper or a safe and secure the region, that in order for people to live safely. So I think that remains a concern beside like bombs happening every while, also from Turkey and Sinjar, that's also so in general, the safety security is a very main concern that's not resolved 10 years now. And so a lot needs to be done in order for people to return. And that doesn't mean also, if we look at the situation also in camps, it's human beings and living, in their own country for 10 years now and under 2 meters of nylon, and looking at the situation in the summertime, how you will see fire incidents happening. And I always say people are lucky if it's a daytime that they could at least save their lives and move from a displacement to another displacement. So all of this, when we look at the situation, it's really sad because there was supposed to be earlier steps and plans in order for people to return with dignity back to their houses, if for those who wants to return back to Sinjar, or for those who wants to remain and after the displacement, those who find opportunities or jobs, or they prefer to stay there. When it comes to the majority of people and Yazidi, and not having a solution neither in the place in Sinjar, and also looking at living in camps. So it's really important that we still, 10 years now, and bringing the topic on the table, that really the situation is not resolved, and we need really support still from the international communities and other to really understand the reality, what's going on the ground. And I always say it's not about how many years are passed that we think everything is resolved, or we see a report that's written, okay, there's no Daesh militarily, but the ideology also of ISIS is still a concern for like minorities, and specifically us as a Yazidi living in Iraq. And one of the things, as also Rebecca was mentioning, is the hate speech and discrimination that are still there, and the misconceptions that Yazidis are still in Iraq. So it's a real concern for us to be in a country that still people really don't see us as a human because of being called infidels and these things or the misconceptions that we are in. So when it comes to discrimination, and we're talking about the Yazidis and youth and finding the equal rights in the area and job opportunities, whether it's government employment, I mean, in general. So this is those are concerning for minorities like Yazidis in Iraq. And also, if we are talking about the hate speech, also that are still a main concern, and always something that it's a very root cause that needs to be addressed. That because we know that those are kind of things that are leading to genocides and which needs to be addressed. And it's also a concern here because it happens. And last year we had a really a very high strong strike of hate speech also happened against the Yazidi. That's almost like last year in June. And it was a real concern for us to see people keep repeating the same thing what ISIS was telling us in August 3rd, 2014, that this is something, what happened to us, we deserved, and this. So a lot of things that needs still, the situation of Yazidi is still, the challenges that we are facing and still is high, I think. And yeah, I think.
What you said about the tent fires really resonates, because one of the women that I was speaking to said to me, you know, while I'm sitting here with you, I'm worrying about what's going on at home, because any moment the electrics can rub against each other and catch fire and my tent will be gone. So it's interesting trying to do an interview with someone who's just constantly worried. Can I ask you, who runs the camps? So maybe how were they set up in the beginning and how have they changed since 2014 in 10 years? Who funds them? Who does security? And I think I also saw in Khanka quite a few people moved out of the camp as well, and they live in nearby kind of area. Are people planning to do that when they close the camps?
For camps, I mean, you know, it's been 10 years, like those camps are settled for. We have around 15 camps in the whole governorate. Mainly our Yazidis are living in those camps. We all know that, I mean, if you are living and seeing the situation of people in the camp, it was, you know, at the beginning, you know, we had this funded like a UN agency, a UNHCR, where, you know, we had support of this cash distribution, food distribution of for people, many like organizations who are providing services in the area, whether it's educational or livelihood programs or mental health services. So there was services around in order to that was make it easier for people. But since we see the situation, I mean, in general around the world, and now the shift or it's shifted now to other countries, and because it's now 10 years, and as if, you know, everything is okay now in Iraq and for IDPs like Yazidis who are there. But it's for now camps, I mean, we don't really have a fund there, and with the Iraqi decision of closing camps and cutting maybe the fund even on Kurdistan region who the camps are located, and that's also a very concern if it's just making, you know, a decision without saying it's a forced return in order for people to be back. But in general, we don't have that distribution of, and the services are not there. Only like we as Free Yezidi Foundation are around in few camps around in Doho Governorate, in and outside of camp, providing services as much as we have, but it's very difficult to have one organization that could cover this a number of hundreds of thousands of people, and it's really a concern, and a support will be needed, and really after the end date of this decision after July 3rd, really what's going to happen, if this is going to be happening or not, or people if would want, those who want to stay, for example, or those who wants to return back to Sinjar, of course, without any proper plan, and paying 4 million Iraqi dinar, that equivalent to maybe 2,500 USD to people who face a genocide, to a family, that's really going to cover you to feed your kids for maybe a month or two. That's really it's not a dignified way to resolve a situation of people who face the genocide, really. So the situation still really, it's the reality on the ground is really different than a report on a paper, and we need really to make sure that we are bringing it on the table and people to understand and to better support or respond to the situations of Yazidis or minorities who face the genocide.
Thank you. When I visited, the impression I very much got was the survivors were feeling like they were in limbo, like nothing was happening, and it's after then that the decision has been made to close the camps. And it seems to me absolutely extraordinary that you can be planning to do this within a few months and have no plan. But you mentioned some of the organizations that work. Should we talk about Free Yezidi and the work that you do for a bit? So you've outlined some of the challenges that IDPs are facing. So Khalida, maybe do you want to speak about what FYF is doing to alleviate these problems?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Khalida, Yezidi survivor of genocide from Sinjar, Iraq. The Free Yezidi Foundation, an NGO dedicated to our communities welfare, established in August 2014 in response to Yezidi genocide. The Free Yezidi Foundation is a woman-led non-profit organization dedicated to support and advocate for the displaced Yezidi community. FYF prioritize providing essential services such as mental health, psychosocial support, protection, legal aid, education, and livelihood opportunities, particularly focusing on survivors of sexual and gender-based violence, with an emphasis on women. FYF comprehensive programs cater to displaced Yezidi women, youth, and survivors. FYF assists survivors in accessing reparations under the Yezidi survival law, pursues justice for victims of genocide and conflict-related sexual violence. FYF has a center called Enterprise and Training Center outside Khanki IDP camp, provides protection, MHPSS, legal aid, skills trainings, job placements, educational courses, and avenues of sustainable income generation for Yezidi women. Skilled artisans at the ETC crafts unique handmade items, while the nearby Sugary Sweet Bakery and Cafe, managed by trained Yezidi women offering baked goods. Proceeds from this initiative directly benefit the artisans, bakery, the facility maintenance, empowering Yezidi women, girls, and survivors, to rebuild their lives with autonomy and dignity, entirely operated and managed by displaced community members. This ETC, or Enterprise and Training Center, serve as safe space where displaced Yezidi women, girls, and survivors can access the comprehensive range of services to reduce vulnerabilities and enhance resilience. Furthermore, FYF has recently launched a large-scale education program in Sheikhan, catering to disadvantaged and vulnerable youth, many of whom are IDPs and refugees. This program, updated to holistic educational approach, delivering solid foundation in English language skills while integrating interaction activities aimed at promoting cross-cultural awareness, tolerance, and community cohesion by providing students with essential skills for building stronger social bonds that overcome ethnic and religious barriers. The program helps reduce the risk of isolation among minority displaced communities in Sheikhan, upholding a survivor-centered, grassroots, and community-led approach. FYF ensure that programs and engagement with beneficiaries don't worsen the existing vulnerabilities of already marginalized survivors in a landscape whether gender inequality persists. FYF remains one of the few women-led Yezidi NGOs in Iraq with a minority female staff who are Yezidi IDP and survivors of genocide. That's amplifying the voices of those it serves while fostering resilience within the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a lot of programs you run. You must have quite a few staff. I think one of the most visible things, if you go on their Instagram, Sugar is Sweet Bakery, there's lots of really good pictures of cake, and chunky animals, you haven't mentioned them. So the women often make these, it's very cool. And I wish that I'd managed to actually bring some back, but I didn't have space in my case. So yeah, thank you. I think FYF does so much different work, it's great. And one of the pieces of work you were doing when I was visiting that was quite interesting, and it links with this exhibition, is to do with the Yezidi survivors law. And I'll let you explain that if that's okay. But it's a compensation scheme. 4 of the 10 women in this, whose stories are featured in this room, had either been denied that compensation or had not at that point yet heard what about, whether they were eligible to receive it or not. And one of the women that I interviewed, a member of your team came in to help her afterwards. So this is a key part of the marginalization, I think. So could we perhaps speak a little bit about the Yezidi survivors law, what the aims were, what it is, and what the problems with it are?
So to give a background on that, so on March 1st, 2021, the Iraqi parliament passed the Yezidi survivors law, which provides a variety of that includes a reparations framework for many survivors of ISIS crimes, including women and girls who were subjected to sexual violence, as well as survivors who were abducted before the age of 18. Although this law focuses also on the Yezidi community, but also it includes support and reparation for survivors from other minority community who were affected by the ISIS genocide. The law provides, it has a number of benefits for survivors. One of them is providing a monthly salary to survivors, a plot of land or housing unit, support to re-enter school without age restriction, because many of the survivors went during captivity, and after a few years being there, then it was difficult to them. So that's one of them, which is good. And the other thing also is accessing to psychosocial services and health services and some other essential assistance. This law is, for us as a Yazidi, is something I think historic to see after facing genocide throughout history, and for the first time passing a law that includes reparations for survivors, but also for us, it's something that really, that what happened to us really is now, it's acknowledged, or it's there. The passage of this law was not only significant for recognizing and providing redressing for the suffering of Yazidi and other captives in Iraq, but also stands as one of the few instances of a nation taking deliberate steps to address the rights and needs of survivors of conflict-related sexual violence. We as Free Yezidi Foundation, we have been working on the past also few years with the on the Yazidi survivors law with different sectors. One of them, we are supporting these survivors in applying to the law, and we do have legal representation and the court according to the the procedures and how, in order for the file to be complete, and these women are living in a tent, as I mentioned, and having nothing. It really they need support of going to different offices and places in order to complete the file. So we do provide legal assistance in that, in order to complete their files, and under that. Also, Free Yezidi was one of the among 8 organizations that were selected by the Directorate of Survivors Affairs, the governmental entity in handling and the work of the survivors under the Yazidi survivor law. So in providing mental health services, and so we are one of the one who receives referral from the Directorate and under the benefit of providing mental health and psychosocial support services. We've seen with the survivors law current some of the challenges that the team are, I think, encountering for now. It's those survivors who have to give the interview to give their testimonies in order for them to get a reparation. So this was something, because most of the survivors, when they were coming from captivity, they already gave their testimony at the investigation and gathering evidence, which is an office that is in KRG, and like giving to UNITAT, and under the law, then they have to redo the investigation because one of the requirements also was to have the investigative paperwork, which makes it, I think it was since the beginning, it was some concerns raised there that how for the survivors to retell and re-traumatize and retelling stories. And the other thing also was for now is that for survivors who are outside Iraq, as you know, some of the program that relocated Yazidi survivors to outside, like France, Germany, Canada, and Australia. So those survivors who are outside, those who required to give their testimonies or at the court and the paperwork, it's a challenging thing for now for how they're gonna get there. Although we have some like progress has been made on the law, which is for the survivors to get the benefit of the salary. So that's for now one of the very visible, and that the progress has been made on it. According to the data since last month is 1,726 survivors have got their salaries under the law. And it was announced that 250 plot of lands had been allocated for distribution to survivor, but that was the announcement, but nothing, we haven't seen like if that's when it's gonna happen, but the announcement was made. This was, as I mentioned, one of the, like, for the first time, a historic thing to see such a law to be passed in Iraq and address the harm that has been done to survivors and for survivors to get benefits here. And it's still like we have many other that the law mentioned how for also rescuing or searching for missing Yazidis. That's something we haven't seen, I mean, from the government or, I mean, general, any plan on that. As you may know that more than 2,600 Yazidi women and children are still missing 10 years now and without any plans about regarding the missing Yazidis. And so it's really important to keep pushing on how this to be fully implemented, because if it's fully implemented, the law itself is great, and we really wish of the full implementation of the law so that the situations in some ways can be addressed. Because and also the exhumation, the mass graves also. Over 90 mass graves also were found after the genocide, and some of those have been exhumed. But that's still because Yazidis are waiting and for what's the fate of those who 2,600 are they dead or alive? They just want to hear something. So you're living with this pain and waiting to hear something, if they are dead, to receive their dead body and bury in a dignified way. So that's some other situations that our Yazidis living in, and living in that situation of waiting, and it's
Can I just ask a tiny question? You said 1,726 have received. Do you know how many survivors there are who should be eligible? Because there's 2,600 missing, but how many do you know should be eligible for?
I mean, the number is not, I mean, limited for how many should be. It's there are criteria for being eligible. I mean, those who are survivor who were kidnapped, I mean, during like the August 3rd and the genocide, and those who face sexual violence, those who are under from Yazidi community who are under age of 18, and also those who survived mass graves and mass execution. So it's a criteria, and it depends on how the process go. You apply to. So it's a whole really full process. That's because we very closely work on it as Free Yazidi. We do. The process is long and routines with the different government offices and applying. And finally, at the committee of governmental committee reviewing the files, and some we are hearing now, some are like rejected, and maybe the reasons or the data are not shared because it's that's also something which survivors concerns, according to our team who are working with them, that if they are rejected, then they have to appeal, and then they need to know like the reason. If you are 2 weeks in captivity or 1 month or a year, the harm that you face in a day, it's not that it's different than you've been there 10 months. It's the same that you are facing. So it yeah, so it's a criteria, it's not a limited number. So any survivors who are having this criteria are eligible, they apply, and then the committee reviews the file and make a decision of who gets the benefit.
Thank you. Let's shift topic, shall we? Free Yezidi Foundation, as you both said, is a women-led organization. One of the things that I know that you do is to promote ideas about women's rights amongst the community. And so one obvious context here is that in 2015, the Baba Sheikh made a declaration that women who had survived captivity should be considered, should be reaccepted back into the community. And there's a baptism ritual that kind of formalizes that in some ways. But can I ask you to speak kind of more broadly about the ways in which ideas about gender are shifting from before 2014 to now, and what Free Yezidi is doing to promote the ideas of women's rights?
I mean, since it's been 10 years, I usually say this example. I mean, of course, after joining the Free Yezidi Foundation and as a women-led organization supporting the empowerment of women. I mean, I usually start by myself, like 10 years ago before the genocide, like I wouldn't know I have the right to work. It's not what something maybe every day put in my head that you don't have the right to work on this and this. But it was something as if, I mean, maybe we lived with it. We did, it's something normal, but because when you don't know about your certain thing and you don't have like awareness on that, on your rights, and then you think it's a normal thing, which is a concern if something like that is just as if it's normal. So with the work that Free Yezidi is doing, and if I look at the change, I could see there's really a difference since the genocide. And this sounds something like positive we could say about it. Really, there's the empowerment of women and their knowing about their rights. We had really very comprehensive and way in the places that we were operating in. First thing, starting with the awareness on the rights of women and providing the courses and the awareness on that within the camp and also in the center. So that really, it's something great to see a positive change from that part. Maybe I cannot say 100%. Still, there's different mind or ideology, but really there's a difference. You could see as me and Khalida here today, like in speaking in front of you and raising the awareness on the Yezidi situation and the work that we are doing. I mean, 10 years ago, maybe, I mean, we didn't know we have the right to work, for example, a simple thing. So it's a great achievement, I think, we see after the genocide with the change that the organizations like FYF is making, and many other women-led organizations, and trying to maybe shift this and or have people to know about that this is your right, and you have the right to education, to work, to you're human like others. And we could see really a change also that I give example usually as we are operating. You see our enterprise and training center is a really big center that's very known in the area. It's all led and managed by women, which is something it was not easy, as I said, to find before. And those who are graduating from courses that we are having, they are really finding jobs, not specifically if we are training them, for example, in the bakery training center, that they have to work in a bakery, for example, but we are now seeing them, for example, in the Hanki area, in jewelry shops, in other places, which is something really great, because I would specifically ask these women beneficiary who used to be with us, like if this was before back, for example, would you work like here in a place? It's only one female's running this shop, and it was not going to be easy, because first, as I said, if we didn't know we have the right to this, and then how we gonna fight for it, how we gonna do it. So it's really, I think, one of the positive things that also we could say after the genocide is that when it comes to the women's rights, and if you're talking about our community, really there's some shifts that according to what we see through our work, really, and we are some examples of that also, as you can see, which we hope to continue with that, because they can, like, women can do it also if the chances are being given, and if they know that this is their right. So yeah, through all our our operations in Iraq, we really strongly support our working on the starting from the base, as that's the key, and we hope to continue and do that more and more.
I have no doubt that you will. That's the last thing that I wanted to ask about is justice and accountability. So there's a mechanism called UNITAD that we're hearing a lot about at the moment for people working on this topic, that's been doing some really good work gathering information from survivors and doing forensic digs, and they've come up with some really kind of innovative ways of gathering material, but their mandate has just been ended. So that's one problem, but I'm interested in what first you would like other governments to do about this, now that we know that UNITAD is going to end, and that's one thing, but what would you like responses of governments to be? And also for survivors, let's get back to that topic. How do they understand justice and accountability? Do they want to see people in court, or do they have different ideas of what justice is? So Khalida, I think you wanted to talk about governments and what you would like to see them doing.
I will talk about what FYF did, like in terms of justice, and also what we want from governments to do. So in addition to the services provision of reconstruction, the primary concerns for most Yezidi, even 10 years after the genocide, remain justice and accountability. FYF is currently one of the only few internationally recognized linked between prosecuting bodies and Yezidi survivors. FYF compile unique analysis of crimes, scenes, and suspect profile, working closely with UN mechanism and IIIM and UNITAD, the War Crimes Unit and areas outside Iraq. FYF all-female team of lawyers and investigators integrate survivor centers practice into all aspects of survivors' interactions. FYF Justice Team recently shared 4 comprehensive crimes scene analytical report, 1 detailed massacre report, and a series of perpetrators profile with law enforcement agencies, prosecutors, UN investigative bodies, and Europol. FYF conducted analysis and investigation across 5 villages in Sinjar, Tel Banat, Tel Qasab, Sibar Sheikh Khader, Gurzarik, and Tel Azer villages. Additionally, FYF examined and tragic Yezidi massacre in Qanay village, compiling a comprehensive analytical report on this event, and broader attack targeting Yezidi communities across different towns. The details report and underlying evidence represent a significant step in the pursuit of justice for the Yezidi community. This is what FYF doing in terms of justice, and we appreciate the UK government's acknowledgement of the Yezidi genocide last year, and we hope for the similar recognition from more government. Additionally, we urge the UK to follow Germany's example by holding its foreign nationals accountable for their involvement in ISIS violence against the Yezidi and other minority communities. Justice and accountability hold great significance for Yezidi community, serving both as a means of healing and also safeguard against future violence.
Thank you. I was given a statistic by someone the other day that there are more former ISIS members in the UK than there are Yezidi survivors. So that tells you something. Not to make you feel nervous, but and what about survivors and how they understand justice?
When any of you visiting Iraq, if you talk to Yazidi survivors and tell them what do you want, because it's now, after all they have been through, coming from captivity and facing all those atrocities. I mean, justice for us means in many different other ways. It means for us also more than just prosecuting perpetrators, but also it includes, for example, a search for those 2,000, more than 2,600. Because this would be one thing that when you're talking to them, they would tell you, we want the missing ones to be searched for, to be, to know what's their fate, if they're alive, if they are dead. Also, justice involves exhumation of mass graves, identification of the body, and to have a respectful burial and in a dignified way. So it means that people or survivors or the community will look into in different way what is justice is. Because if you are not all what happened, 2,600 are missing, and usually I say we reach to an era of humans have reached to the space, and this has been 10 years. More than 2,600 are missing without any plans, any actions with this regard. So for me, when you're not, as survivors, this is very clear, it's obvious, it's in front of the eyes, this is the data, this is, even there are informations that they are located in, for example, in Al-Holkam, they are located in Turkey, they are there. But I also, with this, I say, unfortunately, people would sometimes looked at not humans as human, but more of what's your status is, how strong your back is. Do you have a backup? And is who you are. So it's really for people to heal. That's beside talking the legal part of justice, with bringing the perpetrators to justice. So in order for people to heal and feel safe, and when those people are brought to justice, that finally make survivors and the victims and the community that, okay, maybe, because when it's justice served, we hope that that's not gonna happen again. Yes, paying a salary to help survivors to run their life with having basic services, but only salary is not enough. We need those who committed these crimes to brought to justice. So, and hope that this is not gonna be repeated, because if all those who committed crimes are leave with impunity without any charge, and then this is a concern, and people are not going to be feeling safe or healed after all what they happen. Although, no matter if you are getting a salary or something, so it's really really different ways of if I'm talking about our community, the Yezidi community and survivors, of different way of looking at what justice is, what does it mean for us, and what if it's done, it's a justice for us. So that's is really some of the way that how people will look at it in terms of when it comes to justice and accountability.
I think it's time to open the floor. Can I ask anyone who's got a question here? And we'll pass the mic over to you.
Thank you all. It was absolutely, my brain is just buzzing, just frying. But one thing I think you mentioned, Becky, was some of the women here haven't been able to access the support services, the money, the reparations. How is that justified? Because as you said, one day is the same as 10 years, 10 weeks, 10 whatever. How are these decisions being made? And are there ways that if these women choose to appeal, as you said, they don't have to re-traumatize themselves by having to explain again and relive those absolutely horrendous experiences? And off that, are the international governments doing anything to make sure that, the people, the marginalized people, the invisible people are actually getting some of the support they actually deserve? After 10 years, these kind of things in the mind of the masses almost disappear. So are international governments and international agencies keeping this alive?
With regard to the survivors on getting reparation, as I mentioned, it's there are criteria which are in order for survivors to go through different channels of offices, bringing, giving testimonies again, providing evidence when they came from captivity, either if it's a photo or something that when you are in captivity, or different kind of like some evidence that proves that she was in captivity. And when it comes to the decision and committee, that's something really, it depends. As I mentioned, what we are hearing is that some they have been rejected, but we don't have real, a reason for that. This is according to last update from the team who are working closely with them. But there are to provide evidence attached in the file that are there, forms that to be filled in, and it has to have two witnesses or like that. So it's a bit, a whole process of very complicated, very hard in order for these women to get their reparation under this law. But exact of information on why it's still that depends on the committee. If the proofs are not whatever how they see it, if it's not sufficient or how they see it, that's something it's we hope to get more into. The team gets more into that, and if the reasons are outlined, in terms of the international community support, 10 years, I think I usually, we say, it's when it's not about the number of years, how many it passed, that you can shift your support or direct your attention to other places. If we are not solving this and going to different places, and then things are going to continue to happen to other people. Like if I'm saying, we are here in Iraq, if we don't see a response, for example, from our own government that those crimes were happened, and you close your eyes on that and you don't do any actions, it's not only the Yazidis who are affected, it's the whole country, and this is going to keep repeating to the other places. And unfortunately, we see it's clear. When we are explaining the situation of half of Yazidis still living in IDP camps, 2 hours far from their homeland, the situation in Sinjar, it's not resolved in a way that in order for people to live in a dignified way after facing a genocide. More than 2,600 who are missing without any actions or plans are really, where are they? What we should be doing, at least if it's in the agenda. So there has been, of course, we always, appreciate and thankful for the support of our allies from the different countries around the world and the international communities. However, if the situation on the ground this is it, and we will see how maybe a lot of support and fund came in a way, but something else also I always mention, are you really giving to the right people on the right places? Because this could be also a concern. And I always say, this is the report, and please listen or talk to people who are on the ground and directly people from the community. And when you compare the report, maybe you receive something from a level that, okay, everything is okay and there's no war in Iraq, people are safe, like I'm talking with regard to the Yezidi community. So the support that has been done, we hear that a lot came in, but when we look to the situation on the ground, that still I feel like we are living in a first years of genocide. People are still concerned if they have basic services to provide for their kids, or if you are coming to a camp and people will be concerned when their tent will be, if the tent will be burned. If you are in Sinjar, you don't know at any moment you would be, something is going to happen and you don't know where at least to report when it comes to security and safety. So this is really, the ground, the situation of Yazidis 10 years now. And of course, with the support that came in, and if it was really in the right places, who are really having a will and a desire to make a difference and to do the things in the right way. So that's why I always say it's really important for the governments or the donors, the decision making, to really understand where they are putting their support in, because you could be from your side saying, okay, we had a lot of this in a response to the Yezidi genocide, let's say, but come on the ground and who you are giving this, is it really going into a directions? And we have like many examples that it will take me a long time to share, which I hope I know, but I hope the message is also, I think it is clear here that it's really important, something that for the international communities also to look into who they are supporting, giving their support into supporting the communities. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Thank you both. Yeah, you've spoken extremely movingly and bravely, as on Tuesday. But I have a question which is, I think, more for Becky, actually, which is you mentioned the ISIS fighters in this country. What's happening to them?
Thanks for that, Dan. Insofar as I understand, very little. I mean, it's a kind of off-the-cuff stat, isn't it? But as far as I understand, very little, and that's why they're calling on. Germany's had 3 cases, and I think the Netherlands has had 1. Yes, 1 of prosecution, and that's one of the reasons why the closure of UNITAD is such a problem. UNITAD is gathering evidence, which is all nicely translated as well, so that domestic governments can then, or national governments can then use it for prosecution. So the closure of that is a problem. 3 cases in Germany and 1 in Netherlands is not much, and there's nothing, as far as I understand, going on here. Yeah. But I think that the stat for the number of Yezidi refugees that we've taken to kind of finalize my point is 52, which isn't a fabulous record for our government.
Just quickly, you mentioned at the very beginning that these camps that are closing. So I mean, it might be a stupid question, but what happens next then? And that kind of still is just making me think, you know, has the world actually turned a blind eye and said, well, enough?
Yeah, I think this is something even for us, for the Yezidi community also as of a concern of a sudden decisions or announcement. I mean, every year before we are closing to the commemoration day, we hear some like announcement. And I think I sometimes say it is just more of like, maybe it's shame now, government, that the word displacement still is existing in Iraq. Let's maybe remove that term. And when I look at it, the decision, and look at on the ground, the tangible actions after that decision, we don't see really any tangible actions. Okay, you want people to return, then what's the plan? We know that this is a situation, for example, in Sinjar, and this is the situation in the camp, 10 years now, which is something that's supposed to be resolved. We know that certain things that happen that needs time, like just an accountability. It's going to take years and years until you are bringing people to justice. The exhumation of mass grave, it takes you maybe years until you identify this. When it comes to file of displacement, it's not difficult for I think the country resolving this the situation. But yeah, this is it. And as we see, like, the announcement of closing camps, not very concrete or a real plan beside just paying $4 million dinar per family who returns. And I mentioned about how what will be that 4 million will be enough for. And
If you don't return, do you not get money?
yeah, I guess this is the thing. If you are returning, that's the with the announcement, this is going to be not the benefit. It's going to be in order for you to return. But really imagine thinking about, you are a survivor of genocide. A genocide happened. Your house is destroyed, and you are paying me $4 million, 10 dinar, 10 years. After 10 years, just now you are announcing this, or making it just now a little bit kind of serious or strict that we need to close camps, and also without having a support in the camps. Also, it's a concern. And I was the other day in one of the camp managements, and they asked if Free Yezidi Foundation, if you can provide us the plastic trash bags so we can distribute to camps. So that's a concern. If you don't have a wash system there, that's beside the other services that people would get for primary health care and others, and what will happen to the education system of those in the camp. So everything is very concerning with this announcement, without any proper plan. And of course, it creates, I mean, fear, or like within the people, how this is going to be handled.
Is that why you call it a forced return? Because fine, there's some money that encourages people to leave, but really it's just a closure.
I think I don't know how, don't have the right exact answer for that, but I think, as I mentioned, because if we are not feeling that this is really, you care about that people are living under 2 meters of nylon, don't you make it? Because you could be doing this years ago. Why, like, only 10 years after you want to force it? It's supposed to be this file of displacement or living under nylons. It could be solved earlier than 10 years, you know? So it's paying 4 million, yeah, maybe like it's something that if you are paying money and you see how Yazidis are like having simple life, and could be accepting this, and just they could return, and with this money that they would be paying. But it's it was to be handled really in a different way, and for those survivors and the community who went through a genocide.
Thank you both very much. Could you tell us a bit about the situation in the Al-Hol camp in Syria? Because not all of us know what's happening there and what the situation for Yazidis in that camp is, please.
I think from our side, it's more of our executive director. She was more, when she visited Iraq, coordinated with the camp management there. And for my side, as on the field, we do hear like from time to time from the community who are referring to us or reaching out to us that they know there are like family members or they know that they are located in Al-Hol camp. And if there's a how they how they can be rescued. And I think the situation is very difficult. I mean, again, when it comes to Al-Hol camp, we hear and we know that there are Yazidis there, but the camp is very, nobody can easily go there. It's from like 52 or something countries, people who are there, who are affiliated or family members of ISIS. And even we are hearing that there are like a number of Yazidi, but they are concerned or fear to say that we are Yazidis. And that's why nothing has been done even with that regard, and maybe coordinating on comprehensively as a government with maybe the Al-Hol camp and identifying Yazidis who are there. But yeah, I think only this is something that I could say about it.
Thank you. I think that's probably what we've got time for tonight. So can I ask everyone to join me in saying thank you to Hewan and Khalida from coming for such a long way. They had a horrendous journey getting here as well. So I'm really pleased that we could host you here tonight, and thank you for speaking. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Is there anything that we can do as individuals to help? Write to our MPs or anything like that?
Yeah, I think one thing is really important. I want to say that to not forget us. This is really 10 years, yes, it's passed, but the situation is not resolved. We need support, whether it's through advocacy, through providing services when it comes to, one thing is really important that we focusing also is on the also of educating the people and providing job opportunities. And in order for people to, like us today here, we are coming and talking about what's happening, what happened to us and what's happening, what are still the challenges. So we need support of either